Recording in progress.
Don't forget your microphones, everybody. And Scott is joining us by Zoom today.
That little Hitler mustache.
You know, I just have to dye this area right here.
Hey, when I dye mine, I don't know why. That's the part that always gets darker. Sorry.
In progress.
I meant it in a kind way, but it just...
If my mom can say it to me, then anyone can say it to me.
All right. But it looks good.
He's our attorney, too. We're going to go big, go home. All right, let's call to order. All right, welcome everybody to this regular meeting, Board of Directors of Mother and Spaceport at Tan Field. Let's see. I'm tempted to just keep picking on Floyd.
No, please follow me.
There we go. Thank you, Jim.
Lead away.
Ready? Begin. I pledge allegiance to the flag of the United States of America and to the republic for which it stands, one nation, under God, indivisible, with liberty and justice for all.
Thank you. Roll call. Director Coleman.
Here.
Director Morgan.
Here.
Director Valentine.
Here.
And Director Allred.
Here.
Director Barney is here. Do I hear any motions pertinent to the agenda before us?
Almost to approve it as presented. Second.
All those in favor of approving the agenda as presented say aye.
Aye.
All opposed? None opposed. Community announcements, public comments, items not on the agenda. Anybody have any community announcements coming up? Anyone online have any community announcements? No. Comments on items that are not on the agenda from the public? All right. On to the consent agenda. We have minutes from the previous board meeting and we have a check register. Any need to discuss? No? Do I hear a motion?
Motion to approve the consent calendar, items A and B. I second it.
All those in favor of approving the two items on the consent agenda say aye.
Aye.
All those opposed? Not opposed. And we have one action item today. Did we finally have information on that 959 lease agreement?
We do, and I think we're going to have Director Coleman disclose that this is a conflict of interest under the Political Reform Act and Government Code Section 1090. However, an exception, the public generally exception, applies pursuant to an opinion we received from the Fair Political Practices Commission late last week. So under the conflict rules, Director Coleman is going to disqualify himself from participating in this action. We have a quorum with the remaining 4 directors, so we're good to go to consider it. And he's going to leave the room while the board discusses the assignment of the lease from Voyager to Director Coleman.
All right, and Director Coleman has stepped out. So what discussion do you have for us, Scott?
Yeah, so as you may recall, at first Director Coleman subleased the hangar 959 from Voyager Aircraft. We received an FPPC opinion that concluded that the district could do that under the public generally exception to both Section 1090 and the Political Reform Act. Several months later, Dick Rutan, who owns Voyager Aircraft LLC, decided that he wanted to sell the hangar and assign the lease. Director Coleman was interested in purchasing that hangar from Voyager. So we went back to the FPPC and we asked for their opinion on whether or not an assignment of the lease, since it would put Director Coleman in with a direct contract with the district, whether or not that would violate Government Section 1090 or the Political Reform Act. For several weeks, we had discussions with the FPPC, and they considered the facts of the situation. Late last week, they came back and they concluded that the public generally exception applies to this situation as well. The reasoning of the Fair Political Practices Commission was that Director Coleman was receiving no special treatment, that the leases go out on a standard price per square foot, that the lease that was originally made with Voyager Aircraft was not being modified in any way, rent was not being changed, the term was not being changed. And so as such, because it is within the discretion of the board to assign that lease to any member of the public who is taking the assignment under those terms, that the public generally exception would apply to Director Coleman as well. So at this point in time, the board may assign the lease for 959 to Director Coleman. It's within your discretion. The FPPC opinion merely says that you can do this. It doesn't say you have to do this. So on a note from me, I found the FPPC analysis to be interesting. I'm not sure I would have come to the same conclusion that they did, but I understand why they concluded the way they did. And and then just one other thing is an FPPC opinion or advisory letter, whatever you want to call it, applies only to the person to whom it is directed. So in the future, if we want to go through a similar process, then we would need to decide whether or not we want an advisory letter from the FPPC for that transaction. So with that, if there are any questions, I'm happy to answer them as best I'm able.
So you referenced a couple times the public generally rule. Could you refresh my memory on that?
Yeah, sure, of course. Under both Government Code Section 1090, which is the contractual conflict of interest, and under the Political Reform Act, there is an exception to the prohibitions contained in those laws called public generally. What that means is that a public official can receive a service from the agency that they represent if it is under the same terms and conditions as the public generally would receive that service. Probably the most obvious example is a water board, where the water board sets the water rates for services, and directors have to reside within the boundaries of the agency they represent, so they would be getting their water service from that agency. So long as they pay the same rates and charges as every other water user, then you apply the public generally exception to the decisions they make in setting rates. Using that rationale, the FPPC concluded that because there were no special considerations given to Director Coleman, in this case, it's just a straight assignment of a lease. No terms of that lease are being changed, that same exception applies here.
I have a question. You mentioned that you might not have come to the same conclusion as the board. Why is that?
I think that I probably have taken a narrower view of the public generally exception. But I don't have any problem with the analysis that the FPPC did. It makes sense to me, and I don't object. Not that it matters if I objected. I don't tell the FPPC what to do. So
you advise us legally. So if you have a difference of opinion, it's good to understand all the gray areas of this issue.
Yeah.
I mean, it seems like, as board members, we live in this district. If we're active pilots, we have same needs as someone who needs water, for instance. I'm just curious why you might have seen that as a different.
The public generally exception, at least under the regulations for the FPPC, all of the PRA, Political Reform Act regulations, tend to be lengthy and, in my opinion, convoluted. So the analysis that the FPPC performs is very helpful because they do this every day, day in and day out. And it's very helpful that they're willing to write these advisory letters for public officials who want to be sure that they are not violating the law. But sometimes they come up with an unexpected analysis, and in this case, I think that they found it significant that no terms were being changed for Director Coleman, or that he was receiving no special preferences. And in that regard, I agree with the FPPC. And so the fact that they chose to take those facts and apply them to the public generally exception makes sense to me. So, yeah. I guess I'm not sure that I would have considered once we saw their sublease analysis, right, then we were pretty sure that the assignment analysis was going to be the same because it's the exact same factual scenario, and the FPPC wasn't basing its decision on a different legal theory. So to me, it seemed a foregone conclusion that the assignment analysis would be the same as the sublease. So I was probably more surprised with the sublease than with the assignment. But yeah, they're the ones who are given authority to regulate this area of law. They oversee this area of law. And so Director Coleman is entitled to rely upon the opinion that they issued. I don't know if I answered your question at all, Director Morgan. If not, I apologize.
No, I think so. Thank you.
Do you have any comments from members of the public? Anybody chiming in? Any comments or further discussion from members of the board?
Well, first of all, I appreciate the board's patience on this. And Scott, thank you for getting the opinion. As our perspective as board members, I feel much more comfortable now. And unless anybody else has got a comment, I'll motion to approve it.
I'll second it.
All those in favor of approving? Yep.
Public comment, sorry.
Well, I already did public comment.
Oh, did you? Oh, my mistake.
My goodness.
I know, sorry.
All right, all those in favor of approving the lease assignment to Director Coleman, say aye.
Aye.
All opposed? None opposed. Motion passes.
That's encouraging.
Very much so. Very much so.
Boy, would you grab a shot? Yeah. One example of that, we all have.
Yep. Sure do.
I didn't.
That's no secret.
I did.
You did. It's Floyd. Welcome back. All right, we are ready for the reports. Start us off, Carrie.
Good afternoon.
You want
No, it's secret. He doesn't get to know till
No,
after.
the
of course
public.
he's-
I'm part of the public.
Of course,
I
we
think
assigned it.
it's fair that we.
Okay.
Mhm.
Unanimously.
So, I'm not sure what the rules are on letting Director Coleman in on the conversation, but I'm looking at Scott for any cross eyes. No.
Yeah. No. And he can go back and he can listen and all that. I mean, he just can't participate in the decision-making process, but he can know what happened during that process and coming to your decision. If that makes sense.
Mm-hmm. It does.
Yep.
I'm sure it gives him some relief.
You made him wait long enough. All right.
Okay.
Carrie.
Good afternoon. These are the financials for month ending March 31st. The bank balance increased $302,000. Operating revenue, we're at 80%. Operating expenses, we're at 66%, so still on track because we should be at 75%. Fuel sales increased this month to 74,000 gallons. We have a lot of F-18s starting to come in, so definitely the April numbers will be probably higher than that. We went through a lot of Snicker bars this month.
Any C-117?
I don't know.
No, they've been flying yesterday.
I know.
C-17s, yeah.
On the AR report, not much change. American Verde still waiting for the payment, but they have vacated the property. SpaceLink and Maston are both, we're working with legal on both of those accounts. Dean Sost, I left a message from yesterday, have not heard back from him as far as his next payment.
How close is the 90 days on Dean?
Oh, he still owes, I think, 3,500 or 4,000 on the over.
And all of that's well over
Okay.
90 days, right?
Yeah.
Oh, okay.
So I'll hopefully have an update by next meeting.
Okay.
Fitness Center, we're at 636 members, so definitely still continuing to grow on that. And just wanted to give the board a heads up that we'll be doing a special meeting in the next month or so for the budget workshop. So we typically have done. So I'll kind of keep you posted and kind of work with everyone's schedule so we can get something on the books. Yeah. Like that.
Oh, any questions or comments for Carrie? Nope. All right. Boy, what you got?
Good afternoon. Just a few facility updates. The gate A41, which is northwest of the Hall ambulance gate, it's on the approach end of runway 8. We'll be closing that gate tomorrow through the end of June for an upgrade, improvement, and repair. We'll be widening those gates. We include new gates, new hardware, new hydraulic openers. It's been closed for a little while because it was actually struck twice within, I think, about a 2-week period. So we had to reevaluate how we approach that. Both the gates are 14 feet wide. They should be 20 feet wide minimum for egress. So
Why were they struck? What's the circumstances of them being struck?
One was actually that the safety eye, the reflector, actually reflected off of the fuel tank of the truck that was passing through it. Okay. So it caused the gate to close prematurely. All right. The second time there was a...
No, that's just interesting. Yeah. So the gate wasn't struck. The gate struck something else.
It was the gate's fault.
That's interesting.
I did incorrectly report that. Okay. Yes, the gate struck the vehicle in that instance. Okay. And then the one that happened literally like the next week was a load binder was hanging off the truck and it snagged the gate and pulled it down.
No, that's not its fault.
Yeah, having done that twice in 2 weeks, we opted that we would reevaluate how we approached it, and we're going to widen those gates. So they'll be closed. Tomorrow through the end of June.
All right, good call.
GA area, we did complete repairs to the slab of hangar 942, and we're going to be evaluating the lighting, other hangar elements there, and evaluating the door to see if we're going to repair that door or potentially replace it. But I think we're leading towards a repair at this point, and then we'll look at replacing in the future because of the expense we put into the concrete slab.
I'm impressed with the quality of the concrete that was put there.
I think it's going to be a marked
excellent concrete.
Okay. They do nice work. So now that the contractor's done, then the facility staff will be in there for a couple of weeks making other improvements. Yeah. Also in the GA area, this week we're going to do another round of weed abatement in that area and some herbicide application. And we are going through and trying to get rid of trash and things that are accumulated around the hangar. So more of that ongoing. I've kind of got things a little bit out of order. We will be doing some striping effort in there in all the areas that we fixed the pavement. We need to go back and fix the striping. That's going to happen third week of May, concurrently with the work that's happening on Taxiway Echo and the Compass Rose, which is my next item, which we'll have Taxiway Echo is going to be closed May 18th through May 24th for seal coating and restriping, and that's in combination with the Compass Rose work recalibration. The Compass Rose was already recalibrated. The survey had already been here and done the technical aspect. We were waiting on P608 seal coat, which comes from Salt Lake City, and the batch plant that makes that there did not begin operation until mid-April. So we'll be getting our delivery of material May 18th and 19th.
Where's the restriping happening?
On taxiway Echo. It did not make sense to purchase a partial load to reseal and stripe only the compass rose, so we included Echo in that calibration work. So we'll be restriping Echo, and then we'll shortly thereafter be restriping the compass rose, and then we'll move over and do some striping in the GA area.
So the compass rose is not usable right now?
It is not usable right now, but we do expect to have it open by the end of May.
Okay, by the end of May. All right. The reason it's not usable, is it just because it's not sealed? You said it had been recalibrated?
There's no markings.
Oh, there's no markings, right?
The markings were removed.
It's kind of hard to use without markings. Okay. But end of May.
End of May.
All right.
I apologize. I meant to put this in my information, but I think we moved it 2 degrees.
Okay.
So it would be partial. It would.
Yeah. That friend with a 182 got surprised this weekend with that compass rose.
So that we put that effort out to bid, and the company that's actually doing the seal coat there comes out of Tucson, Arizona, just coincidentally. So we've been trying to deal with coordinating logistics on both of those contractors. Groundskeeping efforts. We recently completed a large effort of weed abatement and cleaning along Airport Boulevard. Got a lot of trash removed from the Oleanders. Doing the same thing over on Belshaw. That's ongoing. I think we had to pull off today for other efforts, but that'll go on through next week. And then we're also doing herbicide applications. So you'll see the signboard up that says we're spraying, and what we're spraying is herbicide to keep the growth down. It's really been bad this year with all the moisture that we've had.
In a good way.
It's the first time I've ever heard.
Yeah, in a good way, but it's
Hey, I deal with it. Yep.
keeping us on our toes. We've got 2 more EV chargers that we're installing at Building 1. We've been working, Jason Buck and myself have been working on this project for a while, and I applied for permits in December, and we finally are expecting those this week. So there'll be a 50 kW fast charger and a 8 kW dual port charger being installed down at Building 1.
Whose time are those?
So the chargers, the district is paying for the installation. The chargers were from EV Connect, the same folks that did the chargers here at the park and the restaurant.
Okay. It's again?
It's a grant.
Okay. And is there a revenue source there for us, for people that use them?
Yes.
Okay.
We get this first for the pilot fee.
Okay. And do we have any EV vehicles that are using those?
The district does not. But the chargers that are here are used constantly.
Okay. I'm just kind of don't know anything about that area.
So back to pulling that thread, is there a revenue stream? Is it we get reimbursed for the power used, or is there actually, or are we making something off of this?
There's 3 different grants involved. The first grant, we are getting reimbursed with a nominal fee.
Mm-hmm.
The other 2 are just a no cost.
Okay. Thank you.
So recently, 2 buildings were returned to district inventory, Hangar 77 and Building 139. We're working on improving both of those while we have them back in our possession. 77 is getting a new foam roof put on. 139, not yet for the roof, and then otherwise heating, cooling, some interior upgrades like carpet and paint. Life safety elements, fire sprinklers, evaluating the plumbing, making sure that when we rent the buildings out, that they don't come back to us with complaints. So we're working on both of those.
So are those buildings empty now?
They're empty now, but I think there's interest in them already.
Yes. 77's historic building there.
The water modeling and the water improvement project. I met with Mead and Hunt on April 18th, and we discussed details of the recent outage that we had in the area where we're doing the water main improvement. That was kind of poorly timed, but fortuitous information that we were able to get from that for Mead and Hunt. So we've got the as-built plans are about 30%. Excuse me. We reviewed the as-built plans because there were some discrepancies between what we're seeing with the survey work and what's out in the field versus what we had on our records. And then preliminary design came back. We reviewed that, and we're working on still trying to get additional data from the tenants on what their hydraulic calculations and whatever their fire systems are using. So that's kind of been a long pole in that project, is to get information from the tenants.
That's interesting. Is there
is there a standard capacity that we need to be able to provide for future growth for buildings that may?
Is there a standard?
Well, let's say somebody a couple of years from now wants to put in a fairly large building that needs fire suppression. Do we have any calculation built into our system that's going to allow them to service that system, or are we going to have to say no, or you need to build in this area?
That's part of what we're evaluating with the modeling portion of those. I'm combining two separate projects. We have the water modeling and then the improvement. Part of the water modeling is to determine what our capacity for growth is.
Planning for future growth, I
Correct.
think, is a way to.
Correct. So, is there a standard number?
Well, I don't care what the number is, but
Yeah.
when we
It's
go to the
non-zero.
expense of
It's
putting,
important.
say again?
But it's non-zero. The growth number is something greater than zero.
Yeah, let's hope
We got
so.
some provision.
Right. Which we did at the time that the station was built in 1996, but we need to evaluate where we're at now with the growth that we've had and how much room we have in the future. So yes, that's part of that effort is to look towards a future planning. And then Taxiway Alpha lighting project, I actually wanted to kind of give some technical details as what we're doing, and then I stopped myself because that project's not been out to bid yet. So look forward to that. I promise I'll come back and explain exactly what's happening. So far, we've done survey work that was done April 3rd through the 6th on Alpha, and we have a set of 90% plans that we're reviewing, and the district is commenting on this week. So it's going to be a really good project and really benefit for the airport. There's two things that keep me up at night: water first and the lights. And so when I can say more technically, I'll be happy to. That's all I have.
You got a lot on your plate, Floyd. I especially find it heartening to hear about and see the improvements to the hangars, and glad to hear the philosophy of the buildings is let's fix them before we get any complaints. So thank you for staying on top of that.
It's much harder to fix them after they're occupied.
Floyd, sorry, I missed the last meeting, but I think you summarized the status on the temporary fixes of the cracks, the large cracks in the GA hangar.
I think, yeah, we talked about that during one of the tenant meetings. We are probably 60%, I would say, done with the repairs. We do have some more. It's just as we need to evaluate.
Okay, so I consider those safety issues.
I understand, and
So I guess I'm wondering what the priority is that versus, re-roofing and a lot of other projects. How does that get set?
the re-roofing projects come out of our capital expenditures, so that they're planned for and budgeted differently. The cracks that we've been thus far that we've been repairing come out of our maintenance and repair budget. So we're doing them as quickly as the maintenance and repair budget can hold them up.
It's still kind of a strategy for taxiing there. I mean, with a long easy, for example, I mean, its tires are fairly large, but I got stuck again last week, and it's kind of like, ooh, if I had throttle to try to get out of this, I'm going to break the airplane and stuff. So I agree with Bob's comment about a safety thing.
I know somebody who hand locks, he lifts the tail up and hand locks the airplane between his two hangers.
Yeah.
And I see it regularly because the tail wheel is so small.
Right.
So he doesn't dare get in the plane and taxi it.
Understood. We intend to do more. I can give you a more in-depth update next meeting. I'll formulate a plan for you and report back next meeting.
But you won't even have to if we can find time and to do it in the areas that are obviously high traffic and whatnot.
Right. The only part I can't answer, but I'm sorry. The only part I can't answer is how much more we can do before we rebudget. I just don't know, but I can tell you that next meeting.
Does anyone else on the board or CEO have any comments on that? I mean, it seems like if it's a safety thing, there's always funds available to fix something like avoid a potential litigation or damage to an aircraft. I don't understand why this is a budget item. Maintenance is
An emergency fund?
Yeah, I mean, a maintenance is when you have a water pipe break, you come in and do overtime and you fix it, no matter what. You don't ask for the money comes from. So if there's something that could potentially, that's been raised as a concern, it's not as urgent as a water main break, but I would say it's up there in the top 5 of things that it has to be done. And also,
What is this? Is this a large crack in the asphalt or something? Or
yeah, your foot, you could drop a shoe in them.
Yeah.
And there's tail wheels that are considerably smaller than these
So
cracks.
you couldn't just patch it?
We have
That's what they are doing.
We have that.
They've come up with a really good solution that is way better
permanent.
than previous. That is semi-permanent as far as I'm concerned. It seems to be working. So the question is, why not?
Is the problem the budget, or is the problem having the resources as far as employees to do the work?
Well, currently we're using contractors to do the work. One of the issues is we're dealing with their schedule.
Well, okay, because I kind of agree with Bob and Chuck. Obviously, if the contractor can't do it because of his schedule, we're kind of stuck. But I would put an emphasis on that.
Temporary or some kind of temporary thing.
We do fully intend to do more repairs, and I will come up with a date that they will be there to do those repairs.
Yeah, I mean, if there's a big enough pothole in the road, you put barricades up and stuff so people go around them. I mean, you know, that's what I think is paint the ground orange or something, because it's...
Is this a new crack that's opened up, or is this part of the network that we've been chugging through getting patched?
Chugging through and getting patched. I'm just wondering, you know, how do we set our priorities on something like that? Because it seems to be a very low priority, is my perception.
I wouldn't say it's a low priority. We're taking care of this.
Lower than other things.
Well, we're limited because we have a contractor who is, I mean, in Mojave, it's an interesting issue. We only have one contractor we can use, and he has to fit us in with his other projects. What I think we need to do is set a timeline, get the work done, and then and just move forward. Plan it out, but let's set a deadline.
Just to be clear, I'm not trying to micromanage, you know, Floyd's time or your time, but when we get briefed on adding electric chargers for cars, you know, and that takes some...
That doesn't come from any revenue.
Money, no, but time and effort, and you know, phone calls and coordination. It's someone is my perception is that there's attention being paid to this and not that, for instance. So I have a limited, you know, view of what's going on. I'm just telling you my perception is, how does this fit in? So I'm not accusing anything. I'm just asking, what is the priority? And this has been brought up before as I think it should be a priority. So I'd hope that it gets more attention.
My perception is it's not us that's holding it up; it's the contractor. Am I wrong?
I don't believe that. It's just that everyone's spinning plates. The same contractor last week was doing a repair on Alpha. Today was doing a repair on Foxtrot Taxiway.
Right.
So, I mean, I would argue that this is higher priority than restriping, for instance, because it's a safety thing.
I wouldn't disagree with that. I mean, we're striping in that area because we have an opportunity to do so.
Yeah, stuff like that. So I keep hearing about the status, and it's clearly like, you know, not in the top 10 kind of thing. And I'm saying it should be. Okay.
Understood.
Director Colvin, you got something?
I know you referenced temporary fix, and they've tried those with soft patch and all that, and those didn't work. They finally got a system that holds up many months, even years, that's working well. So continue with that. But like, there's some that main area that had patches on it. There's still some areas that you kind of avoid there, and those are like 3 feet long here and there. So I think just kind of a little Band-Aid fix on a lot of it would be good versus a 100-foot long crack or something. But I mean, I don't know if you have a map or something that says we did this and we're going to do this and these are the focuses of these important. Or
I'll generate one for you.
Yeah, well, I don't need one, but I'm just curious how you're looking at it, because you just walk around and you go, wow, that's pretty nasty there.
Yeah, I was showing a friend of mine Corey Bird's airplane, and he says he won't take his airplane out of his hangar right now because of those cracks right in front of his hangar.
Right. And those are the ones that we've tried to. I'm not claiming that we have corrected all of those yet, but the ones that are immediately in front of hangars and that are in main transit routes, those are the ones we're trying to prioritize.
You've done some.
Right. And we intend to continue to do more.
That's all I'm concerned with is how is that coming, and it seems like it's not a priority. So that's all I'm saying.
And agree, it should be a focus, but future business. I mean, I've had a lot of very wealthy people that taxi their airplanes and they hit these cracks and goes, "Wow, those have been there for 5 years. I thought you were going to fix the cracks, and they're not being fixed." So we're kind of admonishing people that have sufficient money to start new hangars and this by just fundamentally cracks in the taxiway or they're going, I'm not going to build here if this is the way they maintain. So I'm not criticizing you at all because what's developed now is very good, but it's just
no, I understand, and I don't take it as
be here when they see that. So
it's valuable feedback, and the only answer I can give you is that we do feel it's a priority and that we do intend to do more.
Yep.
I apologize that I don't have more detail than that, but I can provide that.
Don't need more detail.
It is a priority, and we intend to do more.
Yeah.
Thank you, Floyd. Is there anything else? No. Any other questions, comments? All right. Thank you. All right, Tim, you're up.
Madam President, members of the board. Runway 1230 rehabilitation will start at the end of the month, the 29th. We have notice to proceed in progress. Mobilization anticipated to occur here probably within 2 weeks. Contractor is performing topographic surveying. The inland port, I don't have any updates at this time. The water system update, we're working towards the 60% design. Me and Hunt is working on the design spittle. And they're looking, and we're currently giving them feedback on where they're at. We're expecting our delivery by May 15th. Final submission anticipated for July 3rd.
Question.
Yeah.
Does that include some provisions for improving the drainage?
No.
Okay. Am I mistaken? Did we not? I thought that had come up and they said that you would add that. No, well, I'm not saying you said that. Somebody said that, or we discussed it. Did we not?
We have a plan that's shelved to rehabilitate and redesign the general aviation complex. So that project would address the drainage.
Well, so my recollection, and I may be wrong, is when we talked about, the sequence of operations was we had to relocate we desired to relocate the water main first before we started doing any, like installing pads or taxiways or even soliciting someone to do that on their own. And it was suggested that once they tear up the pavement all the way along that long north-south taxiway that goes past the new development area, through the gate, essentially, where the mailboxes are, that rerouting of the water might be the right time, and we would we'd hunt if that was because there's already like sewer on the east-west taxiways on that back row and the next row, and I don't know where they go, but presumably they go to the middle and then turn south and head towards that road, right? And so my question is, well, if they dig it up, would it not be the time to put in even a single drainage spot probably in that area might dramatically help that region from flooding? There's no what?
There's no digging to the sides.
Oh, I thought there was.
Area, but there won't be any digging.
There isn't. I thought there was gonna be a big trench for the water pipe right past the hangar. He just got a lease on and Corey's, in between them.
The tie-in was outside of the 36.
Okay. Still, I think we had discussed that. I'm not. Tim, do you recall? Or does anyone else recall that discussion?
Well, and because I kind of understood it that way too, but I
And
don't
I
know
think
why.
you might have brought it up, Jimmy.
So, can you kind of just point where the tie-in will, just so I have a clear picture? I thought it was going down the.
There's a valve cluster that it would actually be south of where the mailboxes are, just before the buildings.
But I thought
I thought the water pipe goes north across the middle of that field and that you had to move it into the roadway.
Out here,
The
Yeah.
old one, I think the old
Yeah,
one.
the old one runs right through the middle there.
so the old water pipe runs through here. It runs out and it runs actually underneath Hangar 78, and then the loop ties in here. And then there's a line that runs under Building 87.
There's a north-south one that runs diagonally across that field. I think.
Correct, and it runs under Building 87. I'm sorry, maybe I misunderstood. I thought you were talking about in the pavement area here where
Yeah, I thought that diagonal one was going to be rerouted to go basically west of, right down the middle of Roper.
no, the diagonal north-south, the one that passes under 87 is going to move out into Roper, but it's going to tie back in outside the fence.
It doesn't go past the
It
gate.
doesn't go north
Yeah.
past the gate.
Okay, well, I would have sworn Jimmy, I think my recollection
Yeah,
is
I'm not-
you had mentioned, hey, would it make sense to, kill two birds with one stone? Should we discuss this with Mead and Hunt?
Yeah, I'm totally lost with what Floyd's telling, because my understanding was the water line ran underneath the property south of the existing T hangars, that vacant lot,
It does run underneath there, yeah.
and we need to abandon it
Correct.
And move it into the Roper.
and then move it into Roper,
Yep.
extends
We're moving
to,
it to Roper, south of the 36 feet.
so the line will still be there? Underneath the vacant?
No,
Okay, see, I know there's something mechanical there that I'm missing.
Yeah, I thought it was actually all the work was going north.
There's a loop there, so we will abandon
we're
the,
going to abandon that loop that goes east
Okay.
to, well, we're going to abandon the line that goes underneath 87, and then we have to there's another north-south line that loops back or goes underneath
Okay.
Hangar 78.
I don't want to, again,
And that
micromanage.
needs to be moved south.
I guess schematics would help for me
That's the
to,
60% plans. I think
Okay.
we have the 60% plan, we can share that.
okay.
Okay, so that's when we'll get the graphics.
Yeah, okay, that's good. I was totally confused. I was thinking the same thing.
I
Bob.
think there's all elements of.
Yeah, okay. I don't want to do that. Okay,
And maybe I'm latched on to the pavement portion, because yes, we are moving that line, but we don't have to dig up the pavement inside the GA area.
okay. And it makes a little more sense understanding there's a loop there.
And
But my point is still valid because the if there was a sewer line added, most likely it would be under Roper, possibly even south of the gate as well. And I think that's why it came up, and we were like, well, does it make sense? Should we look into what the cost difference is or something, or a plan? And my understanding is Mead and Hunt had already done a survey of the drainage issues and all that.
Yes.
And that since they were also doing the other planning, they could sort of report that together and tell us. In fact, I think they were on a call with us, or maybe came in here, and we said, hey, would it make sense to, would we save money if we combined these two things that we're funding you to do studies on both? So I was kind of expecting some kind of feedback on that.
I'll tap me and Hunt and see if there's something we can do.
another point that me and Hunt made was that the existing water line that goes under the proposed new hangar area, that could just be abandoned in place. You don't have to dig it out, and you could prepare on top of that.
I think they recommended not doing that.
Yeah, there's
And that's
another
not what they
line-
said in the meeting.
There's another line that is directly west of Hangar 60, or Building 65, that ties that loop back together, and that has to be royal. But that portion will have to be dug up. It's possible that the line that runs under 87 isn't ever been fixed, but it's two separate both sections.
The depth of those lines and what diameter are we talking?
The depth on ballparking is probably 3 feet, and the diameter is kind of down.
In one of the meetings, me and Hunt said that's not going to be a problem. So that might be a conflict of something you've heard.
I look forward to being able to see the schematics. It'll make discussion a lot easier, I think. Any other questions on the water system update? All right.
Floyd kind of hit on this, but Taxway Alpha Electrical Rehabilitation, final submittal scheduled for May 10th. The project is slated for late September, early October this year. Just giving you guys an update. The 75th Ranger Regiment was supposed to have a military training exercise here at Mojave Thursday night into Friday. They had to cancel because of world events. So just giving you guys a heads up. We did put out a press release to let the public know, just in case they hear anything, that's what's going on. I sent up an updated press release yesterday to advise that it's been canceled. Wanted to just brief you guys on the Space Symposium really quick. I did attend the Space Symposium in Colorado Springs 2 weeks ago. I think that, and I already talked to Director Barney about this. I think we need to get, or make sure the board is also involved in some of these conferences or symposiums, because at the Space Symposium, it's a great opportunity for us to attract and promote our spaceport for some of these startups that are in attendance. And other spaceports they had a whole team there. They had board members, they had their economic development folks. That's really the direction that we need to be going, particularly with this type of conference. So in the near future, I'll be updating you guys regularly on what conferences are coming up and make recommendations if we should attend. But I think that's some area that we're kind of weak. We could definitely do better with. So, and it'll get you guys into the mix, right? Really, that's all I have. I mean, with the Space Symposium, just to let you guys know, 15,000 attendees from all over the world. And believe it or not, I wore a Hawaiian shirt on the last day, and people actually not only said it was cool, but they were able to pick me out of the crowd and talk to me. Say, we want to do some work over at Mojave. So definitely some benefit there, but did get some pretty good feedback. And that's all I have for the report. Thank you.
Thank you.
I have a question.
Yes.
CEO Reed, it's Eric Schwartz, Stroud Lunch. You reported on the runway closure. You said the 29th. Is that the actual date of the closure? Is that the date work's going to start? And also, is it still anticipated to go through July 3rd?
I'm sorry, I misspoke. It's the 30th, and that's the actual date of start on the runway project.
Okay, so the runway will close on the 30th, and work will start on the 30th.
Yes.
And still anticipate to go through to July 3rd?
That's correct.
Okay, thank you.
Just so everybody's aware, keeping a very close eye on this project. Now, I don't want to jinx us, but in my 20 years, I have not had a runway project not open on time. Now, that doesn't mean that there's something weird couldn't happen. But generally speaking, because of the runway and how important it is to the airport, there's some pretty significant liquidated damages that can be assessed if the project runs long. So it doesn't behoove any of us to not meet the time frame that we have. Ariel will constantly be briefing you guys on the progress and if there's any changes or anything that you guys need to know about. And she's working already on a project to go ahead and get the word out and make sure everybody's on the same page of notes.
When that large-scale project was shelved, that kind of happened with it.
Oh, gotcha.
I'll follow up for next. I do have a plan to move forward with that, or I have a way that we can move forward with that, rather. And I'll follow up next meeting with an update.
Thank you so much.
Can't they take I'm sure not of any significant quantity, but probably an oil change to the hazardous waste they have here in Memphis?
Yes, you can. It's I don't remember the date, to be honest with you. I think it's the third Saturday of the month, and you can take household waste there. It's building 2. It's directly right across the street from our pump house.
Yeah.
Northeast of the event center.
So you can just dump buckets in.
No, there's attendants there, and they'll take it from you.
You'll have to have it contained.
You'll have to have a container in there. Yeah. But I have spoken with Kern County Environmental Health about it and gotten their conditions, and I'll brief next meeting on that.
Okay, because I've got a little bit of gouge on how Tehachapi handles their oil disposal, right? They do have a bin, and it's not completely public access, It is code based, but all of the attendants at the airport have the codes. There's nobody attending it. There's no paperwork filled out. They know the code, open up the disposal bin, dump in their oil, close it, and relock it, walk away, and that's that. For whatever it's worth, that's what our neighbors up to.
That's understood.
Well, so it's Tehachapi Airport Management does that. It is through them. So
Well, the airport, people are allowed to use it.
only if you have the code, and the code isn't freely distributed outside attendants.
Yeah, so that's probably paramount in their programs, because we can't take waste openly from the, like, you just can't leave it open and let the public dump into it, and we have to track cradle to grave where it comes from and how we dispose of it.
Damn it, I just didn't let you.
May 6th is the next one here on the airport.
Thank you.
Yeah, May 6th from 9 to 12.
May 6th, 9 to 12. Right,
Do they have a site you can go to? Because it's kind of weird what I remember. You have to have it containers. You leave it in your vehicle. They come over. They remove it out of your vehicle. You don't even get out of your vehicle. It's weird.
That is weird.
Maybe.
I have their flyer up, so I'll send an email to the
Thank
board
you.
with all the flyers.
That would be appreciated.
Yeah, it's different. Anyway.
All right.
We're still on non-agenda director comment.
We are on director comments on items not on the agenda.
I was disappointed that we didn't get to host was it the Thunderbirds?
Yes.
Is there something we can do to get an early jump on that for next season or something?
The FAA will not budge on a TFR. So if the Thunderbirds can operate without TFR, which they won't because that's their standard operating procedure, the FAA will not issue a TFR. Even McCarthy's office reached out, and I had a conference call with the FAA headquarters. They will not budge on this. So, I mean, we can try, but we're going to end up with the same result.
Yeah, I apologize. I forgot the details. So
No, it's fine.
It was, we couldn't get them a TFR.
Right.
And the reason is because of Edwards.
No, it has no. Actually, Edwards has been great.
Well, I mean, why would the FAA? I guess they didn't need a TFR in New Mexico.
No, because New Mexico has their tests. Their airspace is different than ours. So with the way that it's set up with their testing, their military operating area and the airspace for the spaceport there, they don't have the same kind of issue that we have with having to. They don't need a TFR essentially because the airport's in the dead center of this MOA. They just close the MOA and access it.
Well, they're not an MOA. They're in a restricted area.
Oh, okay.
Right,
My
yeah.
apologies.
We're under an MOA here.
Yeah.
So
that's the difference.
Yeah,
The restricted area.
And so the FAA won't issue a TFR unless it's an aerial demonstration. And Director Barney brought up an excellent point, and I said it in the FAA meeting. That you can hear them scratching their heads. But basically, their practice, you can practice leading up to an aerial demonstration, but you can't just get a TFR for practice. And I brought it to the FAA's attention and said, hey, well, okay, let's say on the last day, we invite the public to watch them practice. Then then your point's moot.
Right.
Long pause, and then the FAA came back and said our local FSDO would have to consider and would approve or deny it, which
So it
basically
sounds like,
means...
Well, it sounds like working with the local, is that the Van Nuys guys?
Mhm.
So we got a year to like warm up to them and, bring them baked cookies or whatever it is, that candy bar.
Yeah, well, the problem is at the end of the day, they're going to reject it.
Well,
It depends
You said
who
that.
you
You
talk
just
to.
said if the
Yeah.
FSDO is, and we have an air show.
The headquarters has already said that they don't support it. Then FSDO will make the same decision as headquarters.
Well, but if we present to them something slightly different, because what we went to them for and asked for was practice. What if we have a good faith event?
How often are they practicing then? Once a day?
Twice a day for 2 weeks.
Okay, those are aerial display air shows each of those times. Why can't they don't have a
They
limit on?
they don't want the public to be watching when they're practicing.
Everybody's gonna watch them. They're like right there. I mean, they have practice day at air shows, and there's
I mean,
people there.
you get an aerobatic box
Yeah.
over Mojave
Right.
when you're practicing, or
Mhm.
you don't get a TFR. though.
That's BG's.
No, but he gets a note of it.
Well, I started that and BG took it, but why not have an aerial display 2 times a day? What limits do they have on aerial displays for air shows?
Well, it's the Thunderbirds require a TFR. So the Thunderbirds will not come here if we can't get a TFR. So the pretext is the TFR is required. It's whether or not we can get the FAA to approve one. Now, what we presented to them last time was, hey, we have Thunderbirds doing practice. And I'm like, well, no, it's not in preparation for an air show that's going to be at the location. Therefore, no TFR will be approved. Now, from that perspective, headquarters said no. And so I would expect that the FSDO would say no with that presentation. If, however, we take the opportunity next year to set up a publicly accessible, good faith event, say, what if this is the capstone to the Thunderbirds practicing? Would you
Formula One air race we're going to
have? Call that whatever that capstone is, right? Then that would be a different presentation. And I think that would be worth approaching the FSDO about because it's a different ask. And perhaps more likely fulfills the intent of the TFR. Because meditating on it, I can see why the FAA said no to us. Because we're interfering with our tenants, we're interfering with our ability to operate as an airport accessible to the public whenever we have a TFR up. If there's no benefit to the public, then why would the FAA grant us the TFR? If we do find a way for this to benefit the public, why would they reject it then? Maybe we could get that to work.
You can invite a different school every day of the week while they're practicing to observe. But they don't want anybody to observe them when they're practicing.
So, but did the Thunderbirds say no?
Let me make a point here.
Okay, so that's another relevant piece of this. So the Thunderbirds said, no, you may not have a public event attached to anything that we're up to?
I threw that idea out. They don't like it. There's a change in leadership with Thunderbirds for next year. I can start reaching out to them and just throw that out there and see if that's something they'd be interested in. I can see some hurdles. We worked out a bunch with them coming out here in the first place, but we could propose it.
But they picked us. It sounded like they liked us.
Yeah.
So if we can find a way to make it work for them and us and Van Nuys, then
one school every day. We got enough schools in the valley to take care of 2 weeks.
If I could make a point, being an air show pilot, flying at hundreds of air shows, we don't have a practice day. It's a rehearsal day. So instead of saying practice, that's not right. They're rehearsing, and that's what we do. A standard air show, they have rehearsal day the day before the real show. So they have a 3-day stretch where the waiver and everything's in place. But I would say rehearsal instead of practice. That's the word to use in the air show industry is rehearsal. And practice is, you have errors. You practice at altitudes and then you come down to the surface for rehearsals. So it's another term that you need to. I wouldn't, Tim, I wouldn't say it's not going to happen because I dealt with a lot of different FAA FSDOs, and some say yes, some say no. It just depends who you get. And if you say we're going to do an air show 2 times a day at the Mojave Airport, I don't have a problem with that.
Just a 2-week period?
Yeah. You're promoting the Mojave Air Spaceport with the Thunderbirds. I mean, that's a great promotion.
Is that disruptive to our tenants here?
Yes. Okay.
Because to me, that's our priority.
Mm-hmm.
It's cool to have the Thunderbirds here, but our tenants are our priority.
Well,
If it means they have to make changes or can't train or do flight test, then I won't support it.
mm-hmm.
So that's another thing where, yes, it's a consideration, but I'll bet there is a solution where it can be meshed in because, yes, our tenants are the priority.
No, I'm not. I just said my priority will always be our tenants.
For sure. So, right, because the Thunderbirds didn't come to Mojave. They actually spent a chunk of that time over at Edwards, and I was watching them from my desk at NASA. And it disrupted the NASA operation. It disrupted the Edwards Air Force Base
You guys
operations.
left your job and went on watch.
I didn't have to. I could see it from my desk. But the disruption was for an hour period in the morning and an hour period in the afternoon. So it's possible. So there are certain operations that will conflict with. There's other operations where it's just a timing consideration. yeah, before setting anything in stone, yes, it
Let's
would
get past the
necessitate
runway rehab.
runway rehab first.
Because I know that's going to inconvenience a lot.
Yes.
of
I just thought I'd mention it because, could be somebody else in the FISDO who a year from now, and instead of waiting for the last minute, maybe we can start planting seeds. That's all.
Okay, any other director comments for items not on the agenda? Oh, all right. In that case, we're ready for closed session.
Recording stopped. And those that would like to return after closed session, just stay on and we'll put you in a waiting room.
So we need mics on Scott, don't we?
Yes, we do.